Hi everyone, back again, and this time I am highlighting the EOCCC document for mental health and wellness and highlighting the grade 1 lessons that I have put together and worked with Holy Spirit School in a grade 1 classroom, and how we use the EOCCC lesson plans and our own ideas for implementation to put together the implementation of this EOCCC document. So here we go. Just going to scan through and show you some things. So we always have the students come in to some calm music. In this case, it's kaleidoscopes that they come into. They watch the kaleidoscope and listen to the calm music as they come in and do a settle down activity from recess or lunch. Then we used the prayer from the EOCCC document, the grade 1 lesson 1 prayer, and sent that together as a class. And also looked at the link to the Christian meditation, and there was a beautiful one for students in grade 1 that we used. Then we introduced the zones of regulation. I wanted to get a sense of what they already knew about the zones of regulation and their their understanding of what the zones of regulation were representing to them. So we did discussion around there. Then we moved into a read aloud, and in our case, we used When Sophie Gets Angry, Really, Really Angry, which is one of the recommendations in the EOCCC lesson. Then we had the students make links between the When Sophie Gets Angry, Really, Really Angry, and which zones that she was in throughout the book. So we used some form of hand signals. When she was in the red zone, we had a particular signal, like a thumb up. If she was in the blue zone, they had one finger. If she was in the green zone, 2 fingers. If she was in the yellow, 3 fingers. And red would be thumb up. And so the students would then highlight or put their hand up with a thumb, for example, if Sophie was in the red zone. Just for me to kind of get a visual sense of were they making those connections between the zones and the emotions. And then we did some role playing, which is part of the lesson plan from the EOCCC. And they had to say what zone they would be in if this circumstance or situation happened to them. So I read it aloud to them, and around the room I had the colors of the different zones. So I had a blue area, green, a yellow, and a red. And the students had to walk over to the area that they felt would represent the zone they would be in if this happened to them. So here for this example, you're playing at home with your favorite toy. Your brother or sister comes along and trades it with another toy without asking you first. And the students would walk over and we would discuss what was it about that situation that would make them feel like they had to be, that they were in that zone. And then we would talk about, was there something that they could do to help themselves before, if they were in the red zone, for example, something they could do ahead of time that would help them so that they wouldn't be in the red zone right away in this situation. So it was just, again, another introduction. So we did a variety of different circumstances that they walked over and we discussed quickly. Then we went into the link that was recommended in the lesson plans and watched the brain on stress. And that was the end of our lesson 1. And then in lesson 2, we started with a community circle, and we started with this discussion around what strategies do you use to get back to the green zone. And we used one of the Black Line Masters, strategies to get to the green zone, and we created a chart of strategies that the class uses, so students in the class could use, and something that they could refer to so that they could use it. If they already use it, great, but if they were maybe not using it and they needed some ideas, they could review that chart and get some ideas on strategies they could use. And so they're building basically their toolbox within the classroom. Then we moved into read aloud. So I've done this in a few schools, and some of the schools had When Sophie Thinks She Can't. So we continued that link with the same author. And in other schools, they didn't have When Sophie Thinks She Can't, so we used the book Ish. And now we're moving into talking about perseverance and working through problems. So this is again linked back to the lesson plans from EOCCC. Mindset, perseverance. Then one of the video clips that's recommended is Bounden. So we watched the video clip Bounden. And then we worked on an activity where we were talking about the things that we can do really well, that all of us have things that we can do really well, and some things that we can't do so well yet. And we wanted to really highlight that concept of yet. So the students we brainstormed first off what things I can do. So I did it as a class with them, and what I'm still working on, what I can't do yet. And then they had to draw visual. So in my case, I drew a visual to show them, and then they went off and worked on one for themselves. And then they made it into a class book that would go into their comm space in their classroom that students could read to look at other students' work and their own, and highlight the things that people in their class are good at and the things that people are still working towards. In lesson 3, we changed it up a little bit now for lesson 3, and we actually brought in the book Ishi, which is available in all of our schools in the Ottawa Catholic School Board. And we discussed tips for being a solid friend based on the book Ishi, and created a class list of some positive tips for being a solid friend. Then we took this activity and extended it even more into lesson 4. And what we did then was had the students at Holy Spirit School, in this case, grade 1 at Holy Spirit, took iPads and after they designed their Ishi rocks, we went around the school as teams. So in this case, it was a team of 3. And you could see that they have their 3 rocks right here sitting in a little basket. And you'll see the words, "You are awesome," in there. So this group put together a tip for being a solid friend would be speaking kindly to each other. And so they have their 3 little Ishi rocks that they designed, and the words "You are awesome" in there. So each group did the same thing with their own Ishis as the representation of themselves. So I'll give you a few examples. So for example, I share my compassion, and they have up here, and this one, students have the Advent wreath, and they have their Ishi rocks sitting on the calendar, or the Advent wreath, representing sharing compassion. I'm trying to make it a little bit larger for you so you can see it here. Another one that went on here was playing with others. So they created their own little structural pieces and put their little friends together, playing together. And in this case, they were playing in the gym together. So again, all the grade 1s came up with their own ideas as a group. So the collaboration that went on, that they had to all agree on which one they were going to do together. And as you can usually know as an educator, there's 3 different ideas, and they had to come to conclusion on which ones they were going to do, which one was going to be the final one. This case, helping somebody to read a book. Kindness is showing your wits. And last examples, being nice is kind, and playing is kindness by helping. Kindness by helping. So these are all grade 1 examples of how they then took that book Ishi, took their Ishi rock, and created their own posters around tips for being a solid friend. From there, we took some of the extra ideas from the EOCCC, and one of them was acting it out, so problem solving. So if my friend won't play with me, what sorts of things can I do to help in this situation, or how can I resolve this situation? So these are some extras that the class would continue to work on when I wasn't there. and also the idea of resiliency from the EOCC grade 1 lessons, bouncing back when you're having problems. How do you bounce back from these problems? And so they brainstorm as a class ideas on how to bounce back. So that's some of the grade 1 examples of how we took the EOCC document and linked it to student learning in grade 1. And I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you for listening.